Sarah, it's a great pleasure to have you with us today. Please.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
I will give you the floor.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been an honor to hear everybody, and I'm welcome to such an incredible crowd. So today we're going to talk about age tech innovation and what the economic opportunity is with this time frame that we have in front of us. And it's kicking off the forum today, and I know there's so many wonderful speakers to come. So first, it's worth talking about what is innovation. We forget sometimes that the definition itself requires impact. There are different types of innovation more than just technology. We're looking at strategic intents and creating new business lines. But at a time when disruption is key, we're also looking at transforming current markets and looking at simplicity and convenience, affordability and accessibility. And when I look at innovation, I always love this photo. So this is in 1924. If you see this photo, the television was not created yet. Yet this is a television showing telehealth with the doctor coming into the living room with remote patient monitoring happening with peripheral devices. We were so far from this happening. I want this to be the framework for today as we look at innovation in age tech, aging services, and innovation. Because we really need to look at not what exists today, but what needs to exist for our future, because we're all aging. The world is aging, the birth rates are declining, our demographic is aging globally. We know this. We know that by 2050, 1 in 6 people in the world will be over 65. But we also know this brings huge economic opportunity. In 2020, people aged 50 plus contributed $45 trillion to the global GDP. By 2050, again, their contribution is expected to more than double, to $118 trillion. So we know the structure's changing, but we all have a story. Why are we here? How did we get into the aging experience and making an impact? For me, it's been from a young age. This is my grandfather, who was a cooper in Canada. And I wanted to be the only grandchild of dozens of grandchildren to learn the art of coopering and making sure that I was learning how to make a barrel while he was still living, because preserving our legacy and preserving the experience and the expertise of our traditions is so important to me. So I took this personal passion of mine and I became a professional problem solver. I'm an occupational therapist by clinical background. I quickly became an expert in aging. The cognitive, the physical, the spiritual, the mental, the socioeconomic impacts that we have globally, the ageist perspectives we have, but most importantly, how we're looking at products and services and experiences and spaces from a human-centered design perspective. How do we create with, not for, the people of our society? How do we advance beyond what we have today? So I've been advising age tech startups for over 20 years. I have a long list of various categories that I've been involved with, but I also led global innovation for Genesis Healthcare for years. And while I was leading global innovation, we were the largest post-acute care provider in the US. And with a joint venture with the Chinese government, we quickly became the largest post-acute care provider in the world. And I designed this innovation center over 10 years ago in China to look at a smart home technology, and I know we'll hear more about that this afternoon. But looking at voice-first technology for environmental access, virtual reality for movement analysis, and ambient sensing of biometric monitoring, having a seamless integration into our world so that we can have a great experience as we age. I also build ecosystems. You may have heard of Aging 2.0. I sat as executive in residence looking at the startups, helping them with their UI and UX and their user-centered design, as well as their product market fit, market entry strategy, and global growth. I also help large enterprises look at what new technologies and innovations are making an impact for the goals that they have. And I quickly started to advise the investment world. So I have 2 funds that I'm involved with. I'm a venture partner with a seed stage investment firm that we call Third Act Ventures, and then also Age Tech Capital out of Canada. I'm the US venture partner helping make global impact investments in age tech. We know the global ecosystem exists. We know that we have seen today so many of this public and private need for investment of resources, financial and otherwise, to come into this space. But the time is ripe also to get on stage and talk to other industries, and I think the world is finally ready to listen. So in 2019, I gave the keynote address at the Consumer Electronics Showcase in Las Vegas, and it was about wearables and the idea of having wearables be seamlessly integrated into your daily routine, and not just this cowbell mentality where you walk into a room and someone knows where you are. That's not human-centered design. But we look at this technology. Seismic was a company that I helped to commercialize, and it's a powered robotics company that augments human strength and performance to allow people to move better throughout their day. This can certainly help an aging workforce, also help those with movement challenges, but we shouldn't just look at form and function separately. It shouldn't just be functional, but it should be beautiful. This beautiful design also ended up in the Smithsonian Museum so that we could show that we have to look at form and function together. And we're getting newsworthy, like the segment that Katie Couric did around tech for good. And looking at the things we're doing today in labs, in government, in research, in institutions, bringing these things to market in a way that make an impact and change and shift the perspective of aging globally. So the business of fashion wanted to know the economic impact of the missed opportunity of this ageist mentality in fashion. How many times are we pushed face creams and things to reverse our aging and look beautiful because beautiful must be young? And it's simply not true. We're all aging, we're beautiful in our own skin, and we need to look at this mentality. From an economic perspective, we're missing the opportunity when we have this ageist perspective, because the 70% of the luxury spend is 50 and older. And so we need to look at inclusivity when we're looking at our marketing campaigns, our product development. So we know there's a great market need and a great market opportunity. We know people are adopting technology at rapid speeds. We also know when we walk into a room in any other industry, retail, hospitality, we're faced with technology that's seamlessly integrated into our experience. This experience design is phenomenal. We have remote check-in and mobile check-ins, virtual reality for entertainment, contactless payments. So many opportunities to engage in technology. Why would it be separate as we age? Why are we not looking at all of the sectors we can make impact and now adopt them in the world of age tech? Well, let's look just briefly at the psychology around why we use technology. Go back to that human-centered design. During the pandemic in 2020, we used technologies and our search engines were Google, because we needed information, Facebook, because we wanted to build community and feel connected in a virtual environment. Microsoft and Apple, again, for information finding. And then Netflix, because we needed to be entertained. Many of us were just sitting inside. How many here binge-watched some sort of show in 2020? Well, in 2021, that shifted. We were exhausted. TikTok dethroned Google because we needed to be delighted. We needed to find joy. We needed to laugh. And so the technology was around our psychology and our behavior because we craved not only connection, not only information, but joy. And the technologies we build in the age tech sector need to also look at bringing delight and joy, not just function. So we know the evolution of technology is rapidly changing. Also, the demographic shift and our society is aging. Our consumer preferences are changing, and we're faced with much economic uncertainty globally. So we hear these technology trends. we look at AI security, automated things, hyper-automation. We just hear these words. But really what it means is how are we designing products and spaces connected? Really people-centric, smart spaces is where we are now making a difference and making an impact. How are people engaging with their technology in their home, in their car, and in their office? How are we looking at our health and wellness and responsibility for each other? We have to align our products and services to consumer interests and values. This digital path to purchase, we are talking about a product today. I will mention some companies I work with and that are in the industry of age tech, and I guarantee you'll be advertised for them later in your phone because we are that connected to our digital path to purchase. We also expect customization and personalization, and that should not be any different with the age tech products and services that we're bringing to market. It's not just a cost plus pricing model anymore. It's value-based, what's valuable to others, and what are they willing to pay for, and what are they loyal to as a brand experience. So I want to look at these tech categories for a moment, and some of the companies that are targeting them that do cross over into age tech. So we have this digitalization and datification. So on the bottom, you'll see Omni Labs. I had a roving robot in China where I could go room to room and speak with the patients and the residents and clinicians, have additional clinical oversight, all from the comfort of my home in San Francisco. I also could ship one of these robots to my niece's house where she was having her bridal shower that I was unable to attend because I was traveling, as I often do. These technologies can change how we experience interactions with each other, and also how we bring expertise to rural areas, and how we break down the barrier and that digital divide. But you can't just have disparate technologies that don't connect to one another. So what is this data going to do for us? Care Daily, for instance, I'm working with right now in a senior living community where they come in with consumer wearables. They have ambient sensing for falls prediction and prevention. They have smart home for environmental automation. But where does all of that information go? How can we make it actionable? How can we make it useful for people? So we put it in through now a platform like Care Daily, and we're able to understand what human patterns are changing. What should we get ahead of, and how should we make a difference and a change in that human existence so that it's more towards healthy living and wellness goals of their own? These smart spaces need to still be very people-centric. So if you see the bottom left of this one, there's a roving robot that helps to bus tables in a dining setting. You might have seen them in restaurants. But if you think about it also in senior living or senior care environments, it's maybe helping to take some of the physical burden off of the staff who's there, allowing for greater accessibility and inclusivity of workforce, so that people maybe who are not physically as able or are aging and maybe cannot lift the trays and bus the tables for an average of 6 miles per shift, they can now work and engage and do what they need to do, which is person-centered experience, having hospitality and personal interaction at the tables that they're serving. I'm on the board of a Belgian company called Nobi, and the middle lamp at the bottom is a beautiful aesthetic lamp that you and I would want in any of our homes. But it's able to sense movement and a movement analysis to the point where you're able to tell if someone is changing their mobility patterns or their activity patterns, detect a fall, have two-way communication, have some predictive analytics of when someone's maybe at greater risk for falling. This is how we're going to connect our devices in a meaningful way to make change for healthy longevity, looking at not just lifespan, but health span and well span. This health and wellness theme and trend, we're also looking at, how are we taking our spaces and making them so personal to our health journeys, not just in senior living, but in our home and community environments as well. I've been asked by some of my clients to build wellness and lifestyle products for them. Basically, these packages where we redesign the space for accessibility and universal design so that people can age in place, whether that's in their home or in residential communities. But it's as much about space design or product design, it is also about experience design. How does someone walk into their home and feel connected to the experience, or walk into a community and feel the health and well-being journey that they're on? Having lighting shift and change with their mood and with the time of day, helping them sleep better with their circadian rhythms. Sleep is so vitally important to the well-being that we have and the well-span that we have. But the connected experience can be seamless. This Intrex product is a company I work with that's in the Amazon marketplace. It's connected into all of the smart home technologies so that you can have voice-first technology for your environmental access. You can also, on the senior living or just in the home and community, you can have the watch experience where it automatically opens the door and unlocks the door as you enter your own home. It allows you to make purchases. It allows you to track individuals and support them. So instead of having someone with cognitive impairments where you're locking doors on them and putting perimeters on their life, you're able to then take the Intrex wearable and their watch and have it be something that you now are notified if they're going somewhere that they may have risk for wandering, or they may have had some sort of mobility challenge and maybe had a fall. And so that alerting mechanism and that attention to the detail of change in someone's human behavior, this is where technology is allowed to really influence how we experience our living. At Age Tech Capital, we're partners with McKinsey Health Institute, and they have a great framework to look at age tech. Everybody asks me, what is age tech? I mean, we really do fall into health tech and fintech and anything that's supporting our aging experience, but I love this aging framework slide because you're looking at, yes, the basic needs of humanity, and also the care environment and physical and cognitive changes, as well as financial empowerment. Now that we're adding decades more to our lifespan, how are we planning financially to support ourselves, our families, our communities, when we weren't planning for that many years or decades more in our wealth span? And how are we looking at the financial responsibility? Also inclusivity and looking at accessibility and social and spiritual connection. So this is a word cloud showing you all the areas that are age tech. You'll hear more from Karen later about just the categories and the landscape that is so broad in age tech. But when you're looking at categories, I want to remind you something, because I bet you all have in your mind some sort of care-related or decline-related category. We all think this way because we're in a global society where aging has a bias. And so if you're looking at the changing post-pandemic sexual transmitted disease route in the US, the category that hit the most were 55 and older, because they were the first vaccinated and they were out having a good time. And we forget that those are also categories of need. How are we looking at things to keep active, vibrant lifestyles, including our sexual health and intimacy and wellness across our health span? There's now, since everybody is aging with this mentality of I can do anything, there's now having a decrease in that bias, I would say. And the activity rates of those who have actually gone into triathlons have quintupled in just from 2020 to 2012 until this last year. I mean, we are seeing people try to live longer, active, healthier lives. And so there are two categories, and I know Karen will go through the landscape of categories later, but there are two categories I want to dive into some of the transformation, because even today we heard its global impact on our caregiver shortage. It's a global issue that we have a decreasing caregiving workforce, both paid and non-paid. And so we're looking at things like aging in place and employer and employee benefits, as well as wealth transfer, and how are we preventing fraud and abuse of our older adults. We're shifting with a lack of caregivers and a need to support our caregivers, both paid and unpaid. So these are some companies that I work with that are in the workforce shift environment and doing things to make an impact. You've heard of seismic, and if we're not automating a task, could we augment the individual who's performing the task to support them greater in the workforce? And you've seen BEAR and the robotics and allowing for people to work longer with support and with some of the tasks to be automated. I also invested in a company during the pandemic called Mezcal, and we're based in Guadalajara, Mexico. And it's a staffing company that helps to support global workforce virtually. So it's helping people find and fill positions with a remote workforce that's mission-driven, that's very hardworking, that's often aligned with their time zones and helping to support positions like engineering and call center support and financial support, anything that's not the frontline caregiver but could be remote talent. And we're building community there that fosters and encourages connectivity and growth of their own professional development within Mezcal, supporting global economic growth, but in a cost-effective center and an efficient way to support also the demographic needs within the US and beyond. CARE, for instance, is another company that I'm involved with as an advisor, and it's taking technology platforms that exist like Uber, where you have an open need where someone needs a ride, and a driver who matches, a dual marketplace for the consumer driving and transportation. Well, why not do that for our caregiver shifts and our caregiver openings? So CARE is quite like Uber, where you're opening shifts and saying we need a caregiver in this community, in this senior living, and here is a qualified shift individual who fits that need, so a nurse or a CNA specifically in the US. And they can also expand this type of technology platform to meet other needs within the workforce challenges. So we hear a lot also about brain health and brain health awareness and looking at cognition and mental health. So how are we supporting cognitive resilience at every age? How are we looking at reducing our risk of dementia and looking at the costs of healthcare and supporting those who have cognitive decline? That includes sleep management and stress management. How are we engaging our cognitive functioning longer, improving quality of life? So this is a major category of need, and there are many companies out there doing this. So Mind You is out of Israel. I was one of their first advisors, and they have a platform that they can determine slight cognitive change just by voice capture in an interview, and they can note early changes in cognition. I had a clinician friend who was very skeptical, but she was also a new mom, and she'd used the platform to see if she thought that it was accurate. And sure enough, she was sleep deprived, and she was actually noted to have change in her cognition from her sleep deprivation. Now, while that's a temporary change in her cognition, it did capture it, and it is showing now you can start to intervene sooner, support sooner with this slight change as we're detecting things sooner. Constant therapy, for example, we're able to extend the clinical support tool within the clinic and extend with a digital tool for cognitive intervention and speech-language intervention into the home through the use of technology and AI. So all of this has been great, but now we need to look at collaboration. How are we bringing these all together to partner in new and exciting ways to innovate and to impact? So I want to give two examples. One, I think we all think that our system is the best. At least in the US, that seems to be the trend. Everybody thinks they have the best either technology or health system or payer system or brand. Everybody looks at the positives of whatever they're experiencing. So I really love this example because it is two of the best. We know that care is shifting into the home. We know that there's home-based care more and more. It's where people would like to age in place or age in their place of choice. Can also be in senior living and in community. But when they want to live in their home, how do they stay in their home longer? Well, you take Atrium Health, largest hospital-at-home program in the US. pioneer in virtual care, the best of class for education, for health systems, and national award-recognized, award-winning clinical care delivery. So what do you need to change about that if you're already in the home with virtual care? You're already in the home with telehealth and you have best-in-class treatments and clinicians. Well, let's take a look separately at Best Buy. So Best Buy is well known as a retail entity, but they also have logistical support of shipping and processing and delivering and removing technologies from the home. They also have tech support, education, installation, implementation. This is the Geek Squad, as they call it. They also have a footprint of in-community, brick and mortar retail stores, but also deployment out into community in people's homes. So what happens when you put both of these together is an incredible partnership to say, well, I'm strong in these areas, let's come together and bring clinical care as well as technology and tech-enabled care and services into the home together, with now an extension of resources and extension of support. You have today shared many of the public-supported partnerships you already have here and in Europe and globally. As I mentioned, China and other countries are certainly mastering that. And I think we're getting our feet wet in this area in the US. We have lots of work to go, but I think it's important to look at the public-private partnership. So the White House announced this moonshot support of individuals, and I know there's two companies I'm excited to see today demo around food as medicine. But Instacart was already delivering other items into the home, food into the home. So how are we looking now at combining clinical support from that, prescribing food as medicine, sending food directly to the home, and looking at the nutritional value and nutritional support of healthy living and healthy longevity? We need more of this. We need public-private partnerships to recognize the need and create impact and innovation together. So we may not know exactly what the future holds for both technology or how we're going to age globally or how we're going to support the caregiver shortage or how we're going to look at our own aging experience through a different lens. But I trust these words of Alan Kay, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And I hope you learn today and this week many things from each other, from the work that you do and the work we can do together in the world of age tech and age services globally. So thank you for having me today.